Hello, everyone, and I want to welcome you to another episode of the Better the Pond Pondcast, where we talk to amazing people doing incredible things that lead the charge of generosity. My name is Warren Berry, and I'm your host and the founder of Instinctive Solutions, where we believe that everyone is an odd duck, but that's what makes them awesome. Today, our guest is Tim Beach from the heart of the prairies and the land of living skies, Weyburn, Saskatchewan. Tim learned the value of a strong work ethic and a dedication to doing what needs to be done. With a love affair for automobiles, Tim has spent his entire career in the industry and now operating an award-winning dealership in Calgary, Alberta, where every day is a celebration at Charlesglen Toyota. Laughter is an instant vacation. And with those wise words, I would like to welcome Tim Beach. So, Tim Beach, I want to thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be a guest on my Better the Pond podcast. It's great to have you here.
Great to be here, Warren. Thanks for including me.
Oh, you're very welcome. Hey, before we jump into the meat potatoes of the podcast, I want to know, what is Charlesglen Toyota celebrating today?
Charlie Brown's Christmas.
Charlie Brown. That's awesome. Do you remember as a kid watching that?
A little bit. Lots of fun.
It's an absolute classic. So now, but do you remember all the characters of Charlie Brown? I mean, you're of that age, right?
I am. You know what? I was more of an Archie comic guy, so I guess I didn't really follow Charlie Brown as much as it sounds like you did.
Well, a little bit. I was a fanatic. I was an Archie comic guy though too. But so I'm not going to put you on the spot and ask you what character would represent you. So we'll leave that alone for right now.
Sounds great.
All right. So Tim, I want to know, what took you from being a gosling to leaving the nest to where you are today. Tim, what is your backstory?
So my backstory, I actually come from the land of the living skies, like yourself. And if you see right behind me, we got this picture of the living skies right from that. I had this photo commissioned of a little farm just down the road from where I grew up, and grew up primarily in Weyburn, Saskatchewan. I was born in Saskatoon, and yeah, so I'm a Saskatchewanite for sure.
I grew up in Saskatoon.
Did you?
I did. So hey, look at that, what we have in common.
Now, I never lived in Saskatoon. When I went home to the crib, it was in Kenniston. So
Right.
just down, there was no hospital there. So my mom and dad had to go to Saskatoon, and that's where I was born. So yeah, I went to high school, all through school. I started grade 1 in Weyburn. We moved from Kindersley. That's what we were before that. My dad was a credit union manager. So he started Holdfast, went, or Kenniston, sorry, then went to Holdfast, Pincher Creek, Kindersley, and ended up in Weyburn. And my dad started farming there with my mom. And I went to high school there. When I finished, I wanted to go to college. I got accepted to 2 places. I got accepted to, I think it's called Palliser, and I don't know if it still is, in Moose Jaw.
Yep.
And Mount Royal College here in Calgary.
I got to take you back here, Tim. You've intrigued me. So your dad went from banking, a bank manager, right, to farming.
Yeah.
Where's the connection that happened there?
So he grew up south of Weyburn in a little community between Goodwater and Colgate. And so his father had a farm, and my dad's from a family of 5 boys. My dad was the second oldest, and he left to get into banking, and his younger brother took over the family farm. But my dad always had this, I don't know if he thought after he'd left home, this farming is actually it's a pretty awesome thing to do. And so he wanted to do it on his own. So he farmed north of Weyburn, just a community called Sadu. And he started there with, there was a thing in Saskatchewan called Land Bank, and the government actually helped farmers kind of almost, I think they rented to own eventually. They were able to purchase the land. So that's how he got a start. He did it all on his own. And my brother now farms it, and my my nephew is, so we got third generation moving into the farm now. And because of his background in banking, I would say there wouldn't be one person that wouldn't say my dad was a good manager of the farm, because he knew where every dollar and cent went, and he knew his expenses. A very, very organized guy. I'd like to think I picked up a few of those skills along the way.
Well, and that's gonna be part of the story. That's why I was going back there, right? So you actually grew up on the family farm.
Yes. Yep.
So your growing up as a kid was doing chores and having to go to school, and was it just a grain farm?
Yes. Yeah. No livestock. It was all grain. Yeah. And the farm has gone from, we were raised on about 1,000 to 1,100 acres of land. That's what was cropped.
Right.
And my brother and his nephew now are farming around 7,000 acres. So it's expanded a little bit since I left.
Well, can you imagine in this day and age, right, a farmer trying to survive off 1,000 acres?
Yeah, it's pretty, I would think it would be very much impossible.
Yeah, I mean, back then, but yet you supported a family on that same amount. It's been really fascinating how that business has changed over the years.
Yeah, and you know, he farmed obviously during the summer, and then in the winter he would build bins, and also he has his Class 1 driver's license, and he would haul grain as well for a commercial grain hauler in Weyburn.
So looking back on your childhood, what was the best part of growing up in the farm or the farming community?
I think it was just, you got to go when you got off the bus, and my mom was the bus driver, so we had to behave, I guess, a little bit better than I was the class clown and always liked to fool around, but it was a little difficult to do with my mom staring at me in the mirror, right?
Right.
It was the freedom, getting off the bus, jumping on your motorcycle, chasing rabbits, hunting, and probably my favorite time of year was spring, just playing in the sloughs and making water diversions and all sorts of things. But it was just that freedom and that fresh air and the openness that you had. And I think, when you're on the farm, maybe you want to live in the city, and then when you live in the city, you want to live on the farm.
Yeah, right.
So, I feel very fortunate. I live on an acreage just outside of Calgary.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I've got a little bit of that, just the space and openness to wander.
Absolutely, for sure. And so, I mean, I have listeners from actually all over the world. So, so you being a prairie boy, you just throw that out there to people that are around the world. So I was just talking to actually some people from the Dominican Republic just this week. Just give a really quick snippet of the Saskatchewan winter.
Yes. So I guess probably the best way of saying it is stepping outside the door and almost feeling like somebody punched you right in the gut and you can't breathe. That's probably the biggest thing. It just takes your breath away, like, oh my goodness, what is happening? I'm freezing to death. Or if you've ever walked into a commercial deep freeze, that's pretty much Saskatchewan winter, and when it's real cold.
Yeah, exactly. But the reason, I ask you that question is because from the people from Saskatchewan, I mean, it's character building.
100%. And I'll take that over going maybe to Toronto in end of November, where it's maybe -5 or -10, but the humidity's off the charts and it chills you right through to the bones. The coldest I've ever been has been in Scotland.
Really?
I went with my great uncle who lived in Barrow-in-Furness, but he was from Scotland. My grandmother was a war bride. She landed in Pier 21 in Halifax after the Second World War. My grandpa met her over there. And so I decided after college I would go over to Europe and kind of travel through. And I got up to England, and then we decided to go up into Scotland. He had a Westphalia van, and we jumped in this and we cruised up the coast, and we stopped in a place, I believe, I can't remember the name of it exactly. I think it was Ayr, AYR. And we decided to have the night there. It's right on the ocean. We go to sleep. I wake up at about, I don't know, 2 or 3 in the morning, and I absolutely was frozen. And I put all my clothes on, jumped back in my sleeping bag, and I'm still cold. And it wasn't, but it's just the humidity.
Right.
You know, and Saskatchewan doesn't, the humidity's not strong and not high. And so I'll take -30 with little humidity versus -10 with high humidity any day of the week.
It's a dry cold.
Yeah, there you go.
So you got your grandmother being a war bride, you have your father being a banker turned farmer, and there you are living in Weyburn, Saskatchewan on the farm. So take me from there. So high school obviously was in Weyburn.
Yeah, Weyburn Comprehensive High School, home of the Eagles.
Home of the Eagles. Were you an Eagle?
You know what? I wasn't, and I wanted to be, but we lived just too far outside of town that my mom wasn't a real big fan of taking me back and forth along with the farm to get everything accomplished. And then by the time I got my driver's license, it was, I got into drama. And I got into, I was the arts director for the high school. So I was on student council.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I could talk my way in and out of things, you know.
And still can, I bet.
Yeah, I suppose.
This is all part of your backstory. So obviously you weren't a Red Wing either.
No, I wasn't, but you know, obviously cheered for them.
Well, sure. Why wouldn't you?
Rivalry with the Bruins and the Red Wings is still alive and well.
Absolutely, it is. So you were in drama. You were in SRC.
Yeah.
And what else did you do in high school that took your time or sort of filled you up?
So I mean, I worked with my dad after schools often, and you know, even in the wintertime, we would heat our home. We never had natural gas until after I left home. So we had an oil furnace. Interestingly enough, it's like almost unheard of today. I don't think it even exists anymore.
Right.
So we had a wood stove in our basement, and we'd heat our home a lot with wood. So I was in charge of making sure that we always had wood in the house, and my brother would help too, although he's a bit of a rascal. But anyway, I was the oldest.
Pot calling the kettle black.
Yeah, maybe.
So, but interesting enough, so you had to, you had to work in the farm, you had chores, you had to make, well, I'm sure you had to probably chop wood, I would assume. It was part of your responsibility, right? Made sure the stove was filled. Do you think that looking back now that those things has actually helped build you the work ethic that you have today?
100%. I wouldn't say my mom and dad were never like cracking the whip and forcing us to do things. We wanted to help, we wanted to contribute, and because of that, yeah, like I'm not afraid myself even today to go out and do anything in the store I can to help out and get involved and show that I'm not above or below helping anybody in any situation. So
and I think that it really comes down to really true leadership, right? I mean, to me, a true leader is never afraid to get down in the trenches.
Yeah. Don't tell people how to do things, show them how to do it, and be involved with the whole process. I agree with you.
Yeah, and be able to work beside them, right? I mean, that's true leadership. So obviously that is something that your dad instilled in you along your path.
Yeah. My dad, I don't think I can count on one hand him ever like losing it or getting mad. Like he's just a calm guy, like really calm. I think I picked up some of my mom's attributes in that area, that kind of the emotional side of things.
It's character.
Yeah. But the prairie people, and I'll say this, and I love Saskatchewan for it. It's rare you meet someone from Saskatchewan that doesn't have a really good, strong work ethic.
Absolutely, I would agree with you. And I think it is part of the sort of that prairie upbringing. It's going back to the roots. It's going back to community, and everybody always wanting to contribute. And I think that that does instill into a lot of the work ethic of people is saying, we just got to do what we got to do and never think twice about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so you're in grade 12. You are going to graduate from Weyburn Comprehensive, and you're going to move. So now we're shifting into you starting to leave the nest. Where do we go from there, Tim?
Yeah. So I had two choices. I was either going to go to Moose Jaw or I was going to go to Calgary, and the big lights kind of like, oh, let's do Calgary. So I moved to Calgary, not with the intent of maybe staying here for the rest of my life, but here I am. Like, I graduated from high school in 1989, and I've been here ever since. And when I was in school, though, ever since grade 8, and my mom and dad will attest to this, I wanted to basically do one of two things, and it was be an auctioneer or sell cars or be in the car business. So it was kind of like, and when I put my mind to something, it's pretty. I get the blinders on, and
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to pull me off. And I went to college, and after I was done, I was like, I want to get in the car business, and it's like it's exactly what I did. And here I am at the same place. I've only had one job,
Wow.
like full-time job.
Right.
I've
But
had
multiple
that's
jobs within the job, though, I would assume.
yes, yeah. I mean, I worked through the store. Yeah.
So when you're going to go to Palliser, right? What were you going to take? What was the one choice that you were going to take in Palliser?
So it was the same program. It was business administration.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I did well at school. I wasn't like top of the class valedictorian or anything like that. That was some of my cousins. They came along and really did the family name well and did that. Uh, but I did well, but I didn't want to. I was impatient. I wanted to get out and working and start to make money,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to do the 2-year program that was transferable. So I could have transferred it and went into the degree program through either Moose Jaw or Calgary, um, and came out to Calgary and did the business admin, and I majored in the marketing side of it.
Do you get to use some of that marketing talent today?
Yeah,
Back then.
yeah, and I mean a little less than a year ago, that's where it really kicked in, and we started becoming known as Alberta's celebration destination. And what really inspires me about that whole thing is I get to have a lot of fun, and and I'm all about like prim and proper is not necessarily falls under my DNA. I like to weave around and just have a lot of fun. And I think if you checked or interviewed any of my past teachers in high school, they'd be like, yeah, class clown. I'm surprised he's done so well.
So are you still the class clown?
Very much.
Okay, and I mean that in the most respectful way, by the way.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
not following the rules, right? And kind of doing your own thing. Number one, we were talking earlier, right? So you got this great Robert Graham shirt, which which I'm a lover. And look at that. It's like got cars on it. It's got pistons on it.
Pistons, cylinders, even I think might even have a turbocharger here. We're ready to roll.
Well, absolutely. So what was your affinity to cars? Like, what was that thing that, I mean, you loved cars, you wanted to sell cars, and then you went into marketing, and then you got into the automotive business. Piece those things together for me, Tim.
So it actually came down to I would go with my dad, and he'd buy a new truck, not every year, he'd buy a new truck every few years, but he took my brother and I one time to buy a truck. It was a Saturday, and he drives his truck into Weyburn, into Great Plains Ford, and he's like, we're going to get a new truck. And we spent the whole day at that dealership. And it sounds kind of weird, but it started with the appraisal, and then it was the new truck, and they had it in stock, and then it was like putting running boards on it. And I don't know if my mom was busy or we just decided to stay at the store the whole day. But I got to just kind of wander around and see but I loved the whole negotiation part of like the trade value, and I don't think that's quite enough, or what about this and this. And it was like, this is neat how they put these two people get together and then eventually buy this car.
Mm-hmm.
So when I turned 16, my mom and dad needed a new car. And I said, can I like do the research on this? They're like, okay. So I went to Weyburn, went to Regina, and looked all over, drove through the lots. This is before the internet.
Don't age yourself.
There we go. I would go into these lots, and I'd meet some salespeople that would blow me off. It's a 16-year-old kid looking at a car for his mom and dad. That's kind of weird. And I would narrow it down to 2 or 3, and then I'd say I'll bring my folks back like within a few days, and they'll test drive it. And so they kind of entrusted me to narrow down and help select a car for them. And I just love this whole thing. And I'm like, I want to do this. I want to sell cars. And a lot of people in our business, I wouldn't say they love cars. They like the business, and it's make for a good living, but they're not passionate about necessarily the cars. And I love automobiles. I've always liked driving a nice car. Not that I ever had really nice ones when I was growing up, but I like vehicles, and I like the art of like putting the deal together and making it all work for everybody. It's just fun. So that's here I am.
Yeah. Excellent. So you're 16, 17 years old. You got your first car.
Yeah.
What was it?
1981 Toyota Tercel SR5.
Woo!
Yes. Yeah.
So you're driving a Toyota way back then. Look at this, all comes full circle.
And I wouldn't say that was the chick magnet car in Weyburn Comprehensive High School. It was more the Camaro and Mustangs is what you really wanted to have. But you know what? I made the best of that situation, and yeah, it was a great car. I got 380,000 kilometers on that car.
Wow.
Yeah.
And did you end up selling it in the end? Is that?
I think it ended up.
Or did it end up? Yeah. So, I mean, you being a guy from the 80s, right? So back, I graduated in 85, so a little bit before you. So I'll take you back to my very first car was a 1972 Datsun 610.
There you go.
See, back when Datsun was around. But
Yeah.
then when that got totaled off, then I bought my 1974 Chevy Nova, and I got my first muscle car, and that.
Did that have a 350 in it?
Had a 350 in it. Fully rebuilt it myself. Made it into a show car. Raced it out at SIR, which is the Saskatchewan International Raceway, and so I have this affinity for vehicles as well. So I share that passion with you.
Now, guess what I have in the garage?
Tell me.
So the car when I was in high school was either a Mustang GT or an IROC, and I always had a preference for the IROC.
Yeah.
So 7 years ago, I found in Killam, Alberta, a 1989 IROC Z convertible, red with the black top, in a 5-speed manual, mint, and I went and got it and still have it. And I love that car. It's just, it was the car that you wanted in high school, but could never afford. So yeah.
And you said that's your summer toy?
Yeah.
Nice.
One of them. Yeah.
Yeah, one of them. Yeah, exactly. I have my little red Mercedes convertible, hardtop convertible, little SLK 32. I mean, total midlife crisis car, but it is a lot of fun. But I still kick myself for selling my car. And it was when, we had my daughter, the car was completely obnoxious. And it was not a family car at all. And my wife at the time convinced me to sell it. Probably one of the worst mistakes I think that I ever made was to get rid of that car, because I have a 16-year-old son now who keeps saying, "Can we go find that old car and bring it back and have fun with it?" So yeah, that's one of those things I think that, part of, I'm not sure about the prairies, but just being a prairie boy of just, cars and building them and working on them. There's just something about that.
Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah.
So tell me about your time at Charlesglen. So you've had one full-time job. So what, tell me about, like the backstory of what got you there, and then what got you to where you are today.
Sure. So when I finished college, that's when I went over to Europe, and I told you about the coldest night of my life. I traveled over there for about 3 months. I have two uncles over there, and went one in Sweden and one in England, and then and some cousins over there. So we kind of cruised around. Came home, and then I'm like, okay, I need to find work. So I just wanted to live in Northwest Calgary. That's where I wanted to be. And I applied at 3 car dealerships. One isn't even in existence anymore. It's a Pontiac store. And of course, you know what happened to them.
Yep.
And then there was a Village Honda and Charlesglen Toyota were kind of side by side. And I didn't really know much about, the background of any of them. I just was like, well, get a job.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel extremely blessed in the fact that Charlesglen chose to hire me, because the president of this dealership, just an absolute prince of a man, and his family's just been wonderful, and like the best place. And so when you land in the best place, and I feel like it was, I have a saying sometimes, I'd rather be lucky than good. Well, I was really lucky that day that they chose to hire me, and just the support that I got all the way through my career, and just believing in me, and me believing in them, and the synergy's been fantastic.
So what roles did you play? So you started off in finance, correct? Or did you start off in yeah, you started off in finance, correct?
Sales. Yeah.
Sales.
Yeah.
And then
Yes.
where'd
you and did that for about 3 years. And my favorite side of that was the used cars. And I think the used cars is kind of like your ducks. You know how you say we're all a bunch of unique ducks.
Yeah.
Well, used cars, there's no two alike. Like, they're all unique. We have a saying that every used car has a story. If you can't tell it, you can't sell it. And, it's had different ownership, it's had different maintenance, it's had different experience. Some have been in accidents, some haven't, all these sorts of things. So I love selling used cars. And my second year, I was like used car salesperson of the year, and then advanced. Then I went into finance. Then I went to used car and did that for quite a few years. And then I went and oversaw new and used for a number of years, and then became general manager about 7 years ago, I think it was.
Mm-hmm. So out of all the jobs that you've done there, what was your all-time favorite?
Used car manager.
Used car manager? Telling stories?
Well, I obviously love what I do right now very, very much. And
yeah, oh sure.
But as far as, it was, and you know what it is about that job is that the factory, for example, right now with COVID being on, they can only produce so many cars under certain restrictions. Mm-hmm. Used cars, if I wanted to stock up to 200-300, we can.
Right.
Now, you might be an idiot doing that, overpaying and buying a car too high and not being able to sell it for a profit. But you're not controlled by anything. Like, you can go big, go home. You can go small. Like, you can do whatever you want. And I love that about it. You could stock up. I could have half the dealership full of Mazdas if I wanted. Whatever.
Right. Yeah. There's this big inventory out there. So interesting enough, and that's a funny thing, but the typical, used car salesman, right? And we all hear the story, right? And so what does Charlesglen do differently that makes that experience for a customer different than the typical, I hate to say it, but the used car experience?
Yeah. So used car salespeople are viewed just slightly higher than politicians. So we just slightly. That, and it's funny, but a lot of people won't enter our industry because of that. They just don't want to have anything to do with that. And I guess I view it completely differently, because I treat and was taught from my mentor, Glenn Richardson, and just everything that ever happened at this store is treat a customer like you treat yourself, period. So if you wouldn't want to be treated that way, you better not treat anyone that you talk to that way. So we have 3,800 Google reviews at a 4.8 star rating on our store.
Wow.
And it's because we care about our customers so much and want to do things like just elevate that experience. And people are blown away with how we treat situations. And we're not perfect. Like, of course, we have things happen that are, not right, whatever. But we're going to do whatever we can to make that correct. And if that was us, how would we deal with it? Well, when you say it that way versus, hey, how can I make the most money out of this situation? The decisions often are completely different.
Absolutely. So as our good friend, our mutual friend, Gare Maxwell, right? It's not about the four wheels and a piece of tin.
That's right. That's right.
So now I want to take a shift here. So Tim, I believe that we're all odd ducks. I believe that we're all misfits. And so what have you done in your life that's been different? What, like a time where you didn't fit in? That could either be positive or negative. So what have you done differently?
So I guess for me, a little bit of a misfit is the fact that about 11 years ago, I had a situation happen in my life that completely threw everything like right inside out, upside down, whatever. I'd been married for 18 years and that ended. And I had 5 children. And it was like, here you go. You got to do it on your own. Mm-hmm. And I'm in the car business, which is very demanding. And the thing that I learned through that whole experience is what's the most important thing that I could do at that particular time, and even to this day, and I take very seriously, is being a good father. And so I put everything into my 5 children and love them to bits. And at that time, it was a little bit of a crossroads. It's like, okay, you got a demanding job. You've got 5 children. What are you going to do to, like, this is odd to be doing this. Mm-hmm. What are you going to do? You can either just, throw in the towel and say, I'm out, and, go back to where your support group is with as close as you can to your family and just kind of put your head under a rock and survive. Or you can just hunker down and say, I'm going to make the best of this situation. I'm going to hold my head high. I'm going to push through this, and I'm going to be the best dad. I'm going to be the best manager that I possibly can be. And I'm going to take the store and my family along for the ride, and we're going to do awesome. And I have to say, 11 years ago, would I thought I'd be in this place? Not at all. But I did it, and I've got some wonderful friends, a strong faith, a strong belief system. Mm-hmm. And I just believe if you stay positive and you hold your head high, like, it's unbelievable what the human being's capable of.
Absolutely. I agree with you wholeheartedly. And so just listening to you, number one, there's a couple of things that what we talked about earlier. So when you said you're going to do something, you do it. So there's probably that part of that strong belief. And the other part is, when I listen to you, it's part of, I think, your dad's sort of work ethic combined with your class clown innovation. I'll figure it out as I go along, put the pieces together, that may have helped you get through that really difficult time, in order for you to really truly thrive.
100%. Yeah. You gotta keep things light too. Like I'm the king of dad jokes, like I love having stuff like that. Speaking of ducks, I usually start off with a bit of a joke, and I have to ask you, what did the duck say to the waitress when she dropped off the bill?
I don't know.
Just put it on my bill.
Perfect dad joke.
And why is it when ducks fly and geese fly in formation, in the V formation?
Yeah.
On the website you talk about the V formation.
Yep.
Why is one side always longer than the other?
There's more geese on that side.
There you go. Oh, you
You're stealing my line. So, but it's interesting. So just again, going back to listening to, and your strong work ethic, your class clown, your innovation, you figure it out, you put the pieces of the puzzle together. Would you agree that that's what makes you the odd duck?
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
And
Yeah.
and therein lies your greatest strength, right? I mean, to me, that kind of that's what makes you awesome, and that's the whole part of a lot of the work that I do is right. Is what is it that makes you awesome? And it's not bragging, right? It's not ego, right? It's what you naturally bring to the table.
Yeah, and we talked about Gare a little while ago, and that's what he noticed right away when he came into this store is that you guys are not afraid to go on camera and be a complete clown. Um, there's someone once told me I can have a little fun, but I can't stand foolishness.
Yeah.
It's that boundary.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of fun. I like to think we're not being foolish, but yeah, just keeping things light, but getting the job done. That I can.
Yeah. Well, I mean, really, when you think about it, we all have to work, right? But why not have fun along the way, right?
100%.
And I mean, that's my whole thing, right? I mean, yeah, we got to get work done, and we want to produce a great result, but why not have fun along the way? I mean, so that old saying, it sounds cliche, but life's too short, right?
And laughter is an instant vacation.
Ooh, oh, hold on, you got to say that again.
Laughter is an instant vacation. And particularly right now, when we can't go on a lot of vacations, when we can laugh, it just takes, I don't know, when you belly laugh, it takes you in a spot that just, yeah, it's like you're going on holidays.
I'm making a note of that. Can I steal that?
For sure.
I'm using that.
There you go. Good.
That's gold right there. You got me. Not only did you give me a dad joke, but you gave me actually a great quote. So in my office, I have a Better the Pond wall. And people who come to see me, or when I get really good inspirational quotes, right, they have to write it on the Better the Pond wall. It's a big chalkboard wall. Can I write that quote? Can I quote Tim Beach as saying laughter is an instant vacation on my Better the Pond wall?
Please do. Please do.
It's going up there. You're being quoted.
Good. And I'm going to come and see you next time I'm cruising through Regina.
I sure hope so. So next question. So Tim, tell me about a time when someone did something for you that left an impact on your life.
I guess it's I've got many, but the one thing that was super special to me is in 2007. I was kind of at that stage of my career where I was like wanting to get a little more, do more, have something that I could really call my own. And so I was looking outside of the city at some dealerships to purchase on a bit of a smaller scale. It would be a little bit more affordable for myself in that particular situation. And Glenn Richardson said, "Hey, listen, we can look at that, with you and see what's possible." So we took a look at it, and then eventually he came back and he said, "You know what? I want you to be a partner in Charlesglen Toyota with me." And I was like, that to me was like, that's just a confidence builder and the trust and the faith that somebody has in you. Mm-hmm. And here we are. So I, couldn't be happier where I am and having a partnership with someone that I respect at such a high level. And for the way he conducts himself in his life, and one of the, if not the most philanthropic person I've ever met in my whole life.
Wow, that's fantastic. And I think that, if you look at sort of his characteristics, what you just explained, right, and yours, and you combine that, and I think, do you think that has a lot to do with the success of Charlesglen, right? And it's, there was a Tech Canada chair, Linda Ellen Hardesty. She said one day, do the right thing and do the next right thing. And it's kind of reminds me of that. What you're saying is that, somebody who's really philanthropic, who's good character, there's yourself, right? You put that together and you do the right thing. And it's amazing what success can come out of that.
Right. Yeah.
So, what are you doing right now, presently, to better the pond? And more importantly, the question is, why are you doing it?
So I think a few years ago, I took the Dale Carnegie program. Unbelievable. Really helped change my life for the better. It just showing a genuine interest in other people, and knowing we have at our store, we have 116 employees. I know everyone by their first name, and use it as much as I can. They say the most beautiful word in any language is someone's first name.
Mm-hmm.
Use it. And so it's just being involved and engaged in people's lives. And I think this goes back again to my roots and the strong belief system I have in community, especially right now, is how do we better the pond? You engage yourself as much as you possibly can in the community, because if you aren't involved in the community and not supporting the community, they aren't going to support you.
Mm-hmm.
And yesterday, as an example, we celebrated one of our local communities here in Calgary that's struggling. They can't use their community hall for their arts classes, their dance classes, their sports clubs, all these different things. They don't have funds. So they reach out to businesses, and I'm like, absolutely, let's get together, let's celebrate your community, let's have a cupcake cake for you at our store, and let's get people to like, share, and comment, and based on that is how much money we're going to provide to you. So it's just all about supporting people, getting behind them, listening to their needs, and doing the most you can to help them.
And at Charlesglen, you guys celebrate every day.
Every single day.
And so, can you share with my listeners some of the things that you do that you celebrate within the organization?
So some of them are just wild and wacky and quirky. Like we had Talk Like a Pirate Day, and we had everybody dressed up and doing a bunch of things. We celebrated the invention of the toilet. And we actually had a toilet in the showroom, obviously one that was clean. We brought it with a newspaper, and we talked about that. And I don't know if you knew this, but Bill Gates is huge into supplying toilets around the world.
Yeah, I knew that. Yep.
We've lots of local communities, local businesses. We've celebrated National Vanilla Day. We've celebrated the Hamburger Day. We've had hamburger eating contests. We've celebrated United Way. Some of them are serious kind of things to help be philanthropic, and others are completely just, we got to find something to celebrate today, like Charlie Brown's Christmas. Tomorrow's Hanukkah Day. Yesterday was celebrating space traveling, like be a space traveler day. It's all over the place.
So next year, would you do me a favor, because I've created International Better the Pond Day.
What day is that?
I believe it's September the 27th, if I remember correctly. I'll have to get you that for sure.
Guaranteed.
Okay, because that's all about, and it's about an International Better the Pond Day, where people actually better the pond, right? It's one day where everybody has to do something for somebody else, expecting nothing else in return. So hopefully we can share that together.
Yeah. Another thing about Better the Pond too is just you probably do this often and read about it and whatever, but just at least try one compliment at least one person a day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's people. I ask this question of our team often. There's three things. What motivates you? Of these three things, which one motivates you? Time off, money, or recognition? You know which one, like 90% of the time?
Recognition. Yeah.
But if you ask people just generally, they'll be like, oh, it's money.
Yeah. I don't believe that. So that's why I give a different answer, because money is never the number one motivator.
I mean, it doesn't mean you underpay people and take advantage.
Thank yous don't pay the bills. I understand that, but it is true though. I think people want to be recognized, and when I do my speaking engagements, one of the slides I have, and I say, people, no one gets up in the morning and says, "Gee, I sure hope I do a crappy job today." People want to, they want to produce, they want to give, they want to commit to something, right? And because they're giving that, and coming from you, you get a thank you, or I really appreciate everything you've done. I mean, that's worth more than money in my world.
Yeah. Yeah.
So looking at all the things that you do, Tim, the question I had for you too is, why do you do it? Why does it matter?
I there's that saying, it's better to give than to receive, and I just feel like when you compliment someone and see a smile come back, it just motivates me to be better. Like I just feel like, when someone, you tell them they're doing a good job and they're like, thank you so much, like it just helps me become like, and then I think it becomes almost like you just want to do it more and more and more. But the important part, as you know, is the sincerity behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Just to walk by someone, oh, hey, you're doing a good job, and they say, oh, my dog died last night, and you say, oh yeah, good. Not recognize what they just said, that's when you lose confidence real quick, right?
Absolutely.
You're not listening at all.
So this is interesting, so here you are, a business leader or I consider you a business leader in your community, right? And yet, you're a guy that comes from the heart. I mean, this is kind of going back to your prairie roots.
100%.
Yeah. Come back full circle.
Genuinely interested in other people, remembering their name, be a good listener, and do what you can to help. Just listening to people is so important. I'll go back, 20 years ago. Yeah, not that great a listener. I was like, let's just get her done. Let's go. And it's like, there's just a wake of carnage left behind you, right?
Absolutely. And I can attest to that as well. I mean, back when I was younger too, yeah, I probably didn't listen a whole lot, and hey, let's put your head down and just go, right? And as they say, with age comes wisdom, and I think that if only knew then what I know now.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll talk about a person that, when I first started selling cars, there was a gentleman I worked with, and he had a degree in psychology. And this guy, amazing man. He's still in the car business. He couldn't put a license plate on. I mean, he was just that unmechanical.
Yeah.
You could tell him a cammed up spindle rotor was gone and the muffler bearings were toast in that car, and he'd believe every word that you would say, right?
Right.
But when it came to people, he listened. He would rarely talk. Like all the customers are doing all the talking, and he sold cars like crazy because he's just genuinely listening and showing care in other people, and they just would line up to deal with him.
Right. It's not about the four wheels and the piece of tin.
Correct.
So Tim, you are the wise goose on the pond. You are the sage. You have the crystal ball. So paint me a picture. What does your golden pond look like? What does the future look like for you?
The future, I feel, is very bright. One of the reasons is I'm with Toyota. Tremendous brand. Like, I used to get so frustrated with them because I'd feel like they're not moving fast enough compared to some of the others. And it's because they're so methodical and next thing to perfect when they do things. Mm-hmm. And so I'm from the Golden Pond. I'm still with Toyota. It's just continuing to do what I do on a day-to-day basis by complimenting people, genuinely caring about them, opening my mind, and also doing everything I can to have them open their mind. I find the world today is quite divisive. Like, if you have an opinion that doesn't match with yours, unacceptable. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
Right? What happened to the, let's, we can have opposing views and not try to ruin someone's life because they think a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
uh, and just being open, transparent, supporting the community, supporting the team, and loving our customers and having them become our biggest fans.
I think they already are.
I hope so. We've got a good group for sure. Yeah.
So, and I just this thought just popped in my head is, we've all been through this pandemic. We've had to shift. Everybody's had to job. Like, we've had to do all sorts of different things to try to make this work. What is the biggest lesson that you've walked away with out of what's been going on with the pandemic?
Well, first of all, only worry about what you can control.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so many pieces to this that you just can't control.
Mm-hmm.
And even talk to my kids about that. It's like, well, there's no sense worrying about it. It's, we just got to do what we can to protect our health and also protect the ones that we love. I would say just that in itself is just continue to go to work or continue to stay home and work, if depending on where you are.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many things that we can be thankful for living in Canada and Western Canada. And I don't know if there's any more to say other than that.
Okay. And I agree with you. In fact, I just wrote an article yesterday and talking about those sort of situations, right? Our environment is going to change and we have no control over the environment, right? But what we do have control over is how we react and respond to the environment.
Yeah. And just being positive, like not being like, oh, this sucks and that sucks. And, oh, I can't believe this happened. It's like, well, you know what? You can, every day you wake up, you have two choices. You can either be in a good mood or you can be in a bad mood. And it's which one do you want to do? And the bad mood never makes you feel great, right?
Absolutely. The Better the Pondcast was actually born out of COVID. I was something I had in my mind, and it was through COVID that I went, you know what? There's so much doom and gloom and negativity that all I want to do is I want to tell good stories. I want to tell stories about what's going right in the world, what people are doing to help and make it better, and the positivity. So, again, this is sort of an example that came out of, what was basically a negative environment, right? We can flip that and make positive situations out of it.
Yeah, and that's what happened with us with Gare when we started working with him. Is we're like, hey, he helped us discover who we really were and what we could do to become this fun-filled place. And we're known as Alberta's celebration. I think that's the most important word in that destination of the three. Mm-hmm. Who doesn't love to celebrate?
I don't know anyone.
Right?
Right.
You can't be a negative person, or you can't be in a bad mood and use the word celebrate in it. It just doesn't work.
Exactly. So, that's like, you can't play sad music on a banjo.
There you go. Oh, but you can, yeah, okay, maybe.
So, anyway, Tim, I want to thank you ever so much for your time today and sharing your stories. It was fantastic. It was great to have this conversation with you. So now, with all my listeners, where do we go to find you?
You find me in Calgary at 7687 110th Avenue Northwest at Charlesglen Toyota.
And if we went, and so back in the day when there was no internet, that's what we'd have to do, which we still can. And if we want to find you in this wonderful world of technology, where do we find you?
Oh, on the World Wide Web?
Yes, I've heard of it.
So you can find us at www.gettoyota.com or charlesglentoyota.com. And I'd love to hear from you. I really would.
Are you on LinkedIn? You on Facebook? You on Twitter? You on Instagram?
I'm on Instagram's probably my preferred choice. So it's just under Tim Beach or Timmy's Toyotas on Instagram. And on Facebook, Tim Beach, and on LinkedIn, Tim Beach as well.
All right.
Yeah.
So there's lots of platforms to find you. So if you want a new car, you want a used car, well, obviously you got to talk to Tim. And if you want to talk to just a great Saskatchewan guy with a big heart, reach out to Tim Beach as well.
And you know what? I have something. I even brought a prop today. So just for you.
Oh my good Lord, a Saskatchewan Rough Rider toque.
Yeah, well, it's actually, it's like a Santa hat. And it's kind of sad that the Grey Cup was missed in Regina this year, but the good news is you get it in 2022.
That is very true. And so now, being that you are a prairie boy, but you're living in Calgary, please tell me that you have not given up your roots and you are still a Rider fan.
It's like that. Is that even a question?
It was a dumb question, but a question all the same.
Yeah, that's like very, no, absolutely. Bleed green.
Bleed green.
Stampeder season ticket holder for one reason, to watch the Riders in town. Yeah, no, I love the Riders. I'll never lose that. That's a guarantee. Yeah, that's a guarantee.
I love the hat. That you just made my day. So you just bettered the pond right there.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
So there you have it, folks. We had a great time here with Tim Beach of Charlesglen Toyota. So this is Warren Barry flocking off to take you beyond the pond to better the pond, because we're better together. Thanks a lot, Tim.
Thank you very much, Warren. Appreciate it. Have a great day.
You too.